Okay, we're just waiting on Charan. She should be here in a minute. There she is. Okay, Sharon, I'll pull you up right after the intro so we can have some time for people to come in and so we can share. Okay, how's it going, everybody? We got 25 people in the house, two, three people in the Zoom room. We got a really good show today. Charan Surdhar's come back on. It's talking DNA reprogramming. I think it's something we haven't talked enough about, and we need to talk about more. So we're gonna pick her brain. She's I don't know if you guys have seen the show that she was on before. Uh, I think she might have even been on twice. I can't remember. These 3D things are leaving me, such as memory. Here she is. Let's see here. Hang on. Let me. Okay. Hola.
Hi there.
Hello, Sharon. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for calling me back on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you been on
Appreciate it.
once or twice? I can't remember.
Twice.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, and so I just want to tell everybody that in the post announcement, I put up a link to a free video. It's a
Oh,
video
yeah.
talking about talking about DNA activation or DNA programming. And so that's to me like a really big subject now because I know when I met Morgan 4.5 years ago, she was talking about DNA reprogramming, among other things that I didn't understand. And it seems kind of far fetched, but I've worked with her a lot, kind of as a client, I guess, and learned the capabilities we have with reprogramming ourselves in many different ways. But one way that she introduced to me was to reprogram our DNA, to talk to our DNA, to I guess heal our DNA or realign it, to pull the energy up of our DNA, and even like to scan our body. And we have these abilities. You have a interesting background because you actually worked in a lab with a microscope studying the field, and then you've kind of worked your way into I guess with the research you've done plus the connection you have with infinite intelligence to develop and expand this new frontier of DNA reprogramming. So I don't know. I'll give it to you and see where you want to go with it from there.
Well, it's like saying, here's a big field, let's run everywhere.
Right? Here's
there's,
here's a
there's,
big here's a big field that's running everywhere. Yeah,
yeah,
that makes.
there's so much to say. But yes, you're right. This is a big field right now, of information. and all of that. But my thing is to make things really simple. It does,
Yeah.
like you said with Morgan, you know, what she's been working with. It's really simple and it doesn't need to be complicated. Um, you know, our DNA is, like I say to my clients, is always listening to us. And it's not only just listening to our words, it's listening to our thoughts, our vibrations, what we pick up, what we have inherited from our ancestors, the traumas that they have had. But none of that has to have an impact on us anymore.
Yeah.
In this moment, right here, right now, it can change in one instant.
Yes. I'm in total agreement with that. And I think one of the reasons this hasn't been talked about enough, and I've seen a few people talk about it or have videos on it or post, but it seems kind of far fetched, you know. I mean, I'm not talking about in reality, but I'm talking about like that little voice that tells us we're little and we can't do this and we can't do that. This is actually a reality that we can actually, and we can put it in different contexts, but really the DNA is the DNA. And people talk about 12 strands and two strands were unlocked and the others weren't, and all these different narratives, which are kind of leading the same place. I mean, the bottom line is we can reprogram ourselves. And one way to do that is to do it through our DNA. There's also been, I talked to Mary Rodwell from Australia 2, 3 days ago. And one of the things, now, even though hers isn't specific to what you're doing, one of the things that really appeals to me about her, she's been doing this a long time like you, and she's merging the scientific with the spiritual, you know? Yeah. We're gonna put those. Yeah. Those are rose gold wedding rings that were custom designed for us that just arrived in the mail. So Morgan's
Oh,
very excited. I'm
congratulations.
excited too. But because you're merging spirituality and science, and I think for me, this experience is all about integrating physical and non-physical or polarities, and to me, science and spirituality meet somewhere in the middle. That's kind of the road you're on, isn't it?
Yeah, and I used to believe that, that do you want to have a moment of excitement?
Oh,
Let's
I just told her,
celebrate.
wait, don't open it yet. Wait. Okay, she's not gonna. You can't tell a woman anything, right? No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, science and spirituality, like you said, the thing is that you have science, you have spirituality, and you have ancient wisdom. They all really combine. And in the past they used to say, "Is it nature? Is it nurture?" But it's all one.
Yeah.
It's coming to a place of neutrality, and the minute we come into neutrality, that's when things open up for us, and that's when we can express the truth of our being.
Yeah.
And really, when we're talking about reprogramming DNA, we're not talking about um, if the DNA is here and you've got all the other stuff like our thoughts and our beliefs and all of that stuff, that we're going to change all this so that our DNA can listen to something else above here. It's actually going down to source.
Yeah.
And it's when we say reprogram, what we're saying is we're saying, well, let's not listen to any of this anymore and let's just go here and be the truth of our being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's our universe, I guess is what you're saying. And I don't know that there hasn't been enough dialogue on it, at least that's gotten a lot of exposure, at least from where I'm sitting. But it this is let me just ask you this way. How do you reprogram, just in general terms, how do you reprogram your DNA?
Well, it's very simple. When we're experiencing life in any moment, it's not something that we do once and then it's over.
Mm,
It's something that we've got to do constantly in every moment. And it's not because we're looking at a linear timeline, but because we're actually, if we are the creators of our life, we're always going to be seeing something that's sort of being refracted off us. And so that's a signal to us that, okay, we have to realign. We have to realign. And that's what reprogramming really is, to
Okay.
realign in every moment. And the way that you do it is that you don't judge what's going on, and you become present to whatever is going on, notice it, and allow it to move through. It's kind of like watching the waves on the ocean, and you're not judging the waves, you're just being the waves. And then eventually the sea calms down, and you're, if you are the sea, that's literally, it's easy.
That's it. Yeah, you know what? And in the universal simplicity of our infinite capacities, everything's so simple, and that makes total sense to me because I think if somebody hears the phrase DNA reprogramming, it sounds super scientific. It sounds almost like non-physical or just technical,
Mechanical.
mechanical. Yeah, and I love the way you explain it because to me it sounds like well, people have talked about, or there's a narrative out there about whatever the reason, because there's many narratives on what happened here and how it happened, and Anunnaki and Cabal and Illuminati and secreted esoteric knowledge and so on. But it sounds like what you're describing is being present, and basically by being present and being aware and responding to what the universe is putting in front of us, so to speak, that you're actually either awakening or aligning or utilizing or opening up the code of our DNA. And it's actually a very kind of a natural thing. And maybe the DNA, according, per the theories, all that junk DNA was just simply there ready to be activated, but we were conditioned not to hear it, see it, feel it, use it, believe in it. Does that make any sense?
So it's like this. I exactly. And when we think about what the ancients have told us, and that is to always to be in a meditative state. What does that mean? It just means being present, being in nature and all of this stuff. All of that is really realigning ourselves, and that's really where the power is. It's not complicated.
Hmm.
It's just going back to what we already know
Yeah.
ultimately.
Yeah,
You
that
know?
that makes a lot of sense because it's like, I guess another way to put it would be to turn off all the programming or turn off all the conditioning or turn off all the noise, which is why meditation and why, and so to me this one's easy, just to go in nature, just to go to the beach or go to a forest or go for a walk and just, yeah, leave your phone behind. That is all it takes. I mean, at least to start, because I guess as I am talking to you and I think about my own experience, I think about the more present I've become since I've been quote unquote awake for 9 years. And it kind of comes down to whatever it is, it's being present. And when I'm present, I start to notice all these synchronicities, for instance, besides 1111 and 5555, but like actual synchronicities, like a bird flying in front of me at the right moment, or somebody calling me at the right moment, or just or somebody saying, hey, you can come plug in your RV and broadcast, the day before we're about to leave and don't know where we're going. I mean, these little things, they kind of like work with you and they validate and synchronize as I guess, as a measure that you're on the right track.
Exactly, exactly. And people might be thinking, well, gosh, that's it.
Yeah.
This it? I mean, we could literally just finish the show right here, right there, and just say,
Yeah.
well, that's it. But the thing is dealing with the mind and understanding that, and then going back to what you said about the 12 strands and all of that, because I've had a couple of people ask me the question about, um, well, when you do this work, are how do you activate those extra strands? The thing is, even that comes from the mind. It may be true that
Hmm.
we're doing that, but when we come to this place where we're actually activating source to be our true vibration through our DNA, then all of that, we become the orchestra
Yeah.
for this, for the conductor to play, to kind of orchestrate through us. And that can involve all those strands,
Yeah.
some of those strands. But when we involve the mind, that's where things kind of can go a bit
Yeah, and
haywire.
I've noticed that. I think things have been on an ascending type of trajectory for everyone collectively, individually. Everybody's communicating with the universe in a different way. Everybody's not everybody, but many of us say, "Oh, this is what I know. Let me tell you what I know." Some go as far as to say, "This is the way to do it." It is, and that does all involve the mind. One of the things I've noticed recently, like over the last few months, especially this year, is how the have tos and the need tos are kind of going away. How the disempowering frequency and codependent frequency we had, like say with the old paradigm of teachers or yogi or guru, is kind of going away. And it's almost like the most challenging or difficult thing, for lack of a better word, is getting used to how simple it is. I mean, you got so many people pulling in channeling and transmissions and downloads and developing these connections with angelics and galactics, and that's all so fascinating, like, and it kind of it's just fantastical. But then it gets down to what you're talking about, and it's actually a very it's like you said, it's almost like, is that it? you know it's like the last place that you get the most excitement from are the place that we want to get away from. I don't want to be human. I don't like my human. I like all that other stuff, but it really is right there. It is just in the plain, simple, everyday presence.
Because ultimately, all these angelic beings and everything else comes from this place.
Hmm.
So, I had a teacher once tell me, he said, if no matter what anyone tells you, just remember, you have a choice to go straight to source. And I've never forgotten those words. And that's exactly what we have here, the ability to do that. And the minute we do that, we have access to all of that. And then it doesn't become like, whether is that true or not, or is it valid or not, or, whatever questions the mind throws in. It's more about witnessing all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, and that's another thing. As I'm sitting here talking to you, I love this job. It's not a job. But like many of us have had experiences where there was an external, what seemed to be an external apparition. Um, and I like many people, I've come to the understanding that these are aspects of me that, and now that I'm talking to you, I realize the untapped potential of DNA reprogramming, because it's actually coming from inside of me. If a dragon appears, in front of me when I lay down, that's something in my DNA that's been opened up. That's a higher sensory aspect of me that's been made available. And I'm a big believer, or becoming convinced that the more I access and utilize the inner verse, the DNA, whatever you want to call it, the more it comes, and that's really fascinating to consider, that can actually create what seems to be external projections from inside of yourself.
Yeah. If you look at it this way, it's like we are the lighthouse of divinity, right? And so the source is always within us, shining that light, and it's through that light that we shine that we can see the different things that it shows us. So what gets in the way is our own belief systems and our own perceptions about life, as well as what we've inherited. So our job is really to, it's almost like if you have a filter in front of the light in the lighthouse, is what would create uh, distortions. But as soon as you come to the light of the lighthouse, the lighthouse and the source, then you are away from those distractions, or the things that would refract the light, and see true. And then you're able to show everybody else around you what the truth is.
Yes. And not necessarily in the old way of sitting down and instructing someone, or you know what I mean? I mean, because it's an it, well, it can be verbal, but to me it's a nonverbal combination of frequencies. It's like the example or the energy or the illumination itself is the code, is the knowledge, is the information data that the soul aspect of us can pick up on, and somehow consciously, probably unconsciously, it gets, it gets activated. I'm watching it happen. And then the other thing that really fascinates me, especially now that we're talking about this subject, is the fact that we're two or more gathered. Like, so Morgan and I, it's one thing to have these type of experiences where you open up some DNA in yourself, or reactivate it, or whatever you want to call it, and you have an apparition or you have a dimensional experience. But when you have that happen and somebody else is with you and they're seeing, feeling the same thing, that the potential of that to me seems mind blowing. And if, like you said, which I believe, we can change and alter and transform the DNA instantaneously, then that would seem to play out in the collective as well, as we drive the collective, as the collective is our mirror, basically.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You know, they say 1 plus 1 when you do this work is not 2, it's 11. One
It's
plus one
11.
plus one is 111. And so the power of us, even your community here, you know, of all of them listening and joining in, and that's the power that, you know, is present on these calls. And there's a potential for huge transformation in that.
Wow.
Especially when you're all focusing in on the same thing, which is what people are doing because they're listening, they're hearing, and then they're joining in at the same time. So it's huge.
Yeah, and so I think there must be, I'm not a scientist, but there must be a quantum aspect to it, because I've noticed it now that you're kind of explaining it to me. I can see it. But I've noticed it in, 1700 shows, that sometimes, like, on a human level, everything's messed up. Like, for instance, like, I'll have tech problems. Hey, I'm going to be 5 minutes late, or something will happen. Or I just do a spontaneous show with someone, and all of a sudden, 100 people show up, and the show just has this fluidity. And I've always known and understood that there was some kind of unseen hand of providence involved, in that basically equates to everyone kind of heard the call, everybody comes to the same vortex, and everybody's a part of it. So the quantum part of it being, yeah, everyone else is, observing us on the screen, but their intentions and their experience is actually affecting us as much as we are.
Yeah, definitely. On the quantum field, I mean, that's imagine like if we have a field, you know, the ocean in front of us, and it's the whole, it's like every droplet in there is a different possibility.
Mm.
And then here on the show, it's like everybody comes in, and then, or, you know, you have an intention or whatever it is in the show, you know, and people show up. It's because you've focused in on one little droplet. And this is how we're talking about programming DNA. This is on a bigger scale, obviously, but well, you have an intention, and that's like one droplet. And then as soon as it's like you just go with it, you flow with it, and then things happen. And that's exactly what's happening because you've aligned to that potential
Mm.
in the field, and out of billions and billions of possibilities. And then everything just kind of falls into place because you've come from that place of heart-centeredness. And it's then, you know, everything shows up. And
Yeah.
domino effect, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Super domino effect. And so
Yeah.
then if I look at, what we're talking about, which is really which is my belief, I mean, I am soul, the human is the hero. Uh, Everything starts from the center of the universe, which is me, in my case. And if I look at the backdrop of the world stage, all of these boogeymen out there, all of these, the virus and potential war and just all those things that are in the mainstream media. I can see how they're having less and less effect on the population, on the populace, whether the majority of the people are awake or not awake, whoever, whatever that means, conscious, unconscious, something seems to be happening, and I have to believe it's a direct result of what your forte is and what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And it's because on a collective, people are shifting and changing and aligning. And, like I said, it only takes one person to do that. And then the next, and then we've got the 11, and then we've got the next and 111. And then the impact is there. Um, when we're doing this work, ultimately, like you said, it is only us. We create everything that shows up. So with everything that is showing up, with the Me Too and then we've got the virus, and then you've got all this. And the thing is, I know you probably noticed this too, but there's like these two different worlds
Mm,
completely. And this is where we are when we're talking about reprogramming DNA. If we go with the fear and accusations and judgments and say, oh, why did the Chinese do this? Or why, all of that, none of that's going to serve us or the
mm,
world. And this is where we can, when we reprogram, this is a great example of how we can reprogram our DNA and that of the world,
mm,
because we're noticing these two worlds. And then if we just choose in this moment, say, for instance, you hear something about, oh, the virus, this school was closed or whatever. Well, you can either go into this fear, or you can say, well, I know a world where that is totally full of freedom. It
mm.
is freedom. And you can emotionally connect with it with your heart. And that is then what will radiate out with like the lighthouse that I was talking about.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then that's how you, as a lighthouse, I mean, how many boats are saved, just with a lighthouse? It's that's what we become.
yes, yeah, and like the other thing too, which I think is seems to be, at least in what I can see out there within the work I do, is the separation, I guess, ultimately is a result of fear programming. So what I'm trying to say is that sometimes we can say, oh, I'm not going to judge people anymore. I'm not going to judge people anymore. And then the next day we wake up and we're like, okay, I'm pro conservative, or I'm pro liberal, or I'm behind Trump or against Trump, or I believe in QAnon or I don't believe in QAnon. And like we can take these polarized extremes, and we're really feeding the fear and that false narrative as well, because but I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but is there anything that's a higher priority than reprogramming our DNA? Because to me, that seems to be you mentioned dominoes, that seems to be the big domino. If we reprogram the DNA and it's the biggest domino, all the other ones are going to fall down and fall into alignment.
Yep, yep, I totally agree with that. And I don't know if your audience wants to do an exercise with this in particular, and let's
Yes.
shift into this place where we can either come from here to there.
Yes.
And the way that we do that is really to come to a place of neutrality. So you've got this and this, it's about this, you know? It really is. Because the minute you do this, there is no this and there's no this.
Right.
And ultimately you just connect it to your heart.
Yeah.
So let's do this. So if everyone just recognizes any fears that they have, whether that's politically, with the virus, or even in their own lives, whatever they have, and just put your hands out and know that this hand, your right hand has what you would see as being the issue. And in your left hand, you feel the issue, not the issue, but the opposite, which is freedom from that. So just feel that, know that you have it, and then just allow slowly, in its own time, allow your hands to just come together and take your time with this. And as you're doing that, breathe from your heart. Breathe into that space in your heart. And whenever you have noticed that they've come together, or if they're still coming together, it's okay. Take your time and just place your hands in a namaste position and breathe through your heart, noticing how both those situations have melted away, and that there's only this heart presence. And we'll just stay here for about 30 seconds in silence. Because that's where what's happening in the silence is your DNA is realigning to that new potential, which you may not know what it looks like, but it's not, doesn't include judgments, it doesn't include any of it. It just is your pure presence. And through that, anything can manifest. And the fact that we're all doing this together, the power of that is humongous. So here we go. Just breathe, slow and steady. And feel the energy of your hands and your heart. Okay, whenever you're ready, slowly open your eyes. And that's all it takes.
Isn't that amazing? You know, Morgan has a method that she downloaded over many years, and it's the same type of exercise. It's an exercise of and this is a very general overview of it, where you take a polarity, like something you disassociate with or feel that's separate from you, and you take the opposite. And through this series of exercises, you pretty much do that, and they're just as quick. And, and you basically bring them to the same point that you just did, and it is instantaneous. It's instantaneous. The only thing that let's just say might work against you is the mind, like you were talking about earlier. Like, oh, it can't be that easy, because I did it, but until I really said, okay, I'm going to give this a shot, then I did it for like 5 weeks and had the biggest transformations. And I'd had many, but I had the biggest expansion that probably I've ever had. If I've had bigger ones, they've come through, a moment like this, through, maybe a big polarity that I had, but didn't have to do it over 5 weeks. It could do it in 5 minutes now, you know? I mean, and I love what you said too, because it's like, oh my God, is it that easy? Well, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everything else seems so ultra complicated, and so fantastical and so dimensional. And I'm not saying those things aren't real, but it would only make sense that our greatest expansion would come when we're present in this, supposed dense environment, this thick duality, because that would be the last place we'd want to look.
Yes. And we always say this, that we're the master creators of our life and we're all of that. Well, isn't it time that we actually step into that?
Yeah.
And all the other stuff is true. I'm not saying it's not true, the dimensions and the different visions and the different beings, and they're all there. But you yourself are the creator of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're the creator, you can enjoy the play
Mm-hmm.
of your being. And this is where I think we're all, not even think, I know we're
Mm.
stepping into.
I agree. I agree. About a month ago, because we connect every night before we go to bed or when we go to bed, and together. And so we were having like, three or four, there's always elevations involved, but like there were some really powerful ones over a period of a few days. And I told Morgan, I said, man, I bet we're going to be seeing like all kinds of stuff now in the bedroom. There's going to be like really, really physical, not just translucent, but physical things. And she said, no, I don't think so. I said, why not? She said, because we're that now. We're becoming that. We're actually all of that. So, for instance, like somebody could be walking down the street who's done enough of this and will appear, in from the old human perspective, supernatural, or their aura might be a rainbow, or more than one person notices. You know what I mean? I think I really got what she was saying, and have gotten it more as time's gone on. And I wonder, I'm just asking you. I mean, it would seem to make sense that unlocking, reactivating, or whatever the word is, reprogramming our DNA isn't just about uh, manifesting what you want and being in the flow, but it actually I would think has the innate skills and abilities there too, such as telekinesis and higher psychic abilities, maybe uh, teleportation, uh, you know, conscious multidimensionality at all times instead of just here and there. I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
All of that, yes, I
Mm,
believe so. And I know so in my heart that that's all available for us. Ultimately, it becomes even simpler than that, even for me, what I feel. And
mm.
that is that if we recognize our truth and become aligned with that, we see everyone around us as ourselves. And then as soon as we do that,
Yeah.
the whole thing shifts.
Yes. Yes. We've been getting that over the last. I mean, I think you've heard that. We've all heard that. But there's something about hearing something. I'm not trying to make light of things and say, "Oh, that's just a cliche." But I
Exactly.
think, but I think that it's one thing to hear something, say something, but to feel something's totally different. And from my perspective, in order to feel it, you actually have to experience it. I can remember many times Morgan telling me, I told you that 6 months ago. I've been telling you that. And I'm like, yeah, but I just got it. Like I felt it, and one of the things that's been popping up very recently, even last night, was a very clear uh, uh, experience when we lay down, has been about what you're talking about, has been about beyond the words and beyond the cliche, actually looking at other people and seeing yourself, or holding the same, holding that infinite love or unconditional love, and from a higher perspective, seeing things for what they are. And we can't be the only ones. You just mentioned it. There's no coincidences.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's like if you're the lighthouse and the light's going to be the ships, if the ship's coming past and it's in the dark, the minute it comes into the light, it's the light.
Yeah.
And so if you only see the light, you
Yeah.
know, and then everything else just dissolves. The ship is there, and it's truth. These other beings are there, and it's the truth. It's, the raindrops are there, and it's the truth. The clouds are there, and it's the truth. But as soon as you put your eyes on it, it becomes you. It's you. And
Yes.
I had that experience a couple, probably about a month or so ago, when I was just out in nature and it was raining, and there was trees, and the rain was falling. I just stood there for a second, and I just felt like I could feel the pulse of the trees, and I could feel the pulse of the rain, and everything was just so alive. And I know exactly what you said. It's like we can say these things, but once we've experienced it, and what we've shared today on the call is the path to experience that.
Yeah.
And that's where when we feel that, it's a joy. And that's
Yeah.
our true sense of being and presence in the world, is to be that. And when we
Yeah.
do that, we're aligned. We've reprogrammed
Yes.
our DNA.
I know, and it's so weird because it's like, it's just like you get up and you go about your day, and the entire every moment, just in the natural, the natural way things unfold, you have an opportunity not just to reprogram your DNA, but to be in like a constant communion with it. I mean, to develop a mastery of it. And again, I go back to the same thing you were saying. Is that it? Is that what we do? I mean, is that what we do? One of the other things that I noticed, and I utilize this for myself because it bothered me, and that is, of course, we do podcasting, and I watch other people, and try to stay, up on what's going on, how people, their frequencies, and what are they doing. And one of the things that really bothered me was like card readings, like, or any program where, everyone, you can call in and we're going to heal you. I'm not saying this can't be done, and I'm not saying it's not legitimate. What I'm trying to say is that it seemed to me like, how can we give away our power? You know, can you tell me, what's going to happen in my future? Can you heal this in me? And it's like, to me, and I watched it years ago, and it seemed very effective. I watch it now, and it seems very much in my
Jarring.
face. Yeah, yeah, and I'm like, okay, that's just doesn't work anymore. It's like by hook or by crook, push or pull, we're being forced to go within ourselves, way beyond any cliches, even including what's been written for thousands of years about going within. Because I think now we're really getting to a point where there's a collective wave of experience that's actually creating it. Maybe it's just time we were ready. I don't know.
I know personally, it's like this year, it's been like things I could listen to before, I can't listen to anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's because I know, and I'm being called to listen within. And I know that that's for the collective as well. And to have our inner vision, like they say, it's 2020, it's having that inner vision and being aligned to that. And I think when we're looking outside of ourselves, it's coming from a place of fear.
Yes.
And it comes back to those two things, we're talking about. We want this or this. Well, when we make a choice to go, I'm not saying those are not valid or any of that.
Yes.
It's just that if we're looking outside of ourselves, are we looking from a place of fear, or are we looking from a place of being inspired?
Yeah.
And
Or
that,
like, yeah. Or like
yeah.
curiosity, or am I being curious, or am I looking for salvation?
Mm-hmm,
That's kind of what I see.
mm-hmm.
That's why I get I brought up the thing about, and I'm not against or for anything. I mean, it's not like that. But I'm observing to try to create an elevated Todd, and expand my own work, But if I look at the QAnon movement, or Trump, or Sanders, or, pick anything you want, pro monarchy, anti monarchy, anything at all, there, to me, there's as much a threat and a distraction in those things that we follow out of fear, like you said, because we're looking for salvation. We're looking for someone to save us and protect us, you know, as much as a trauma, our past traumas take away our power. These other sides of the spectrum, too much light is like too much dark, and I'm just saying from my own perspective, if I look at some type of movement and say, okay, that's it. That's it. That's the end all cure all. These are the kind of things I think that are starting to get us to go deeper, is when we realize that those things don't have the power that we're looking for.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I totally agree. And it's coming back to what we're talking about. Ultimately, the power is inside of us, and we
Yeah.
just have to recognize that. And we've recognized it. We all have, but it's how do we do it? That's the
Yeah.
thing. And how do we get there? And that
Yeah.
is having no judgments
Mm-hmm.
and understanding that the mind is a frequency. It creates frequencies, and you're in charge of that. So the frequency that you create is what the DNA is going to be aligned to.
Yeah.
So do you choose this or do you choose this? And then you merge it, and you bring it to where there's no polarity inside of you, no matter what's going on outside. And so as a result of that, you become that lighthouse which beams the light onto others to see the same.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like it's like there is no green pill or red pill. It's the chill pill. just
Yeah.
just go about your business, be present and aware, because it's like reading a book. If you step out of your place, I can see out the window right now. You step out of your place and you're going to go to work, or you're going to go to the grocery store. Every step of the way, we're being spoken to. Every single step of the way, and we've all experienced that. Oh wow, that was cool. We had a little thing about a month ago where we were kind of off balance, and we were didn't know where we were going to go, so we drove the RV to a park and sat down on a table and said, okay, let's see if we can deal with this. And as soon as we did that, this hawk went and planted itself in a tree about 8 feet high, and just, I mean, really close, like 15 feet away, and just looked at us. And I was like, okay, see, that's it. Now, part of me wants to go, and I think that's what a lot of us do, get really wowed over it. Wow, oh my God, let me go tell everybody what happened. But this is actually the natural flow of things, isn't it?
It is. It
That we're,
is.
yeah.
And because if we step into that place, the hawk is you, and
Mm,
it's just reflecting back at you, and the sun will reflect back, and the trees and people and everything, and like you said, we are capable of teleportation. We're capable of all of these things, and yet we have this ability to not want those at the same time,
mm.
and step out of that wanting those, but step into our power, and then all of that becomes available.
Yeah. Yeah.
So powerful place that we can be in.
Yeah. And then you mentioned wanting, that's, I always think about wanting and then desire. And I'm like, well, what's the difference? Like I'm like in my head. And then I started like the desires for my soul, like my soul's moving me to do certain things, but then I have these wants. And I realized that they got to go, because the more I want something, the further I get away from it. I think we kind of figured that part of the equation out. But it's like, I've tried to, like we've been on the mainland since August the 8th, and it's just been one synchronicity after another. You can stay here, you can stay there, in the perfect sequence, and resources, and do we have we don't have any, you know, by human standards, money. but whenever we need something, it comes, so it's like when the want goes, I keep saying to myself, God, all I got to do is just go do my thing, right? Like love my wife, do my shows, go for walks, and because it's like the universe knows everything I want or desire or whatever, and it's just like it just keeps coming and coming and coming. It takes all the thinking out, I guess
Hmm.
is the way I'd put it.
Yeah, exactly. Our thoughts are the biggest obstacles. And this
Mm,
is not about stopping our thoughts because the mind's going to do that. This
mm,
is more about recognizing that we can step behind them.
mm. Yeah,
And that's the difference.
kind of like meditation, you observing the thoughts and just looking at them and letting them come in, go out, come in, go
Yeah.
out.
It's like watching a movie, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
In the
Yeah.
theater, you're not going to be absorbed with being in it. You're more of an observer of it. And, like we said at the beginning, I mean, this is what ancient wisdom has taught us.
Yeah.
And it works with our science because when we're doing that, what we're doing is we're changing our frequency and then the frequency of the DNA and reprogramming it. I mean, it's so elegant. Like it's so elegant and so
Mm.
simple. The
Yeah.
we've known all these ancient practices. We've known all about that. And here we are. Now we can merge the science and that together and say, wow, all right, now I know why I was doing all that.
Yeah.
I know why, we had to do this or this. All the things, yoga, meditation, being in nature, all of it's to help us align and
Mm.
recognize the magnificence of our being. And as soon as we do that, it's like, hallelujah.
Right. Yeah. Hallelujah. That's saying it mildly, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, somebody was on yesterday and they were saying about the thoughts. Like, because there's so many ways to explain things. And somebody will get it one way, somebody get another way. But and I had already kind of got to where you were at, but he made me, or whoever it was, I don't know if it was a he or she, made me think of it a different way. And they were like, so your imagine there's a movie projector, like in the movies, right? And then there's the screen. Now imagine the movie projector complaining or judging the screen, what shows up on the screen when it's coming from the movie projector. And I was like, I remember thoughts like that. I'm like, and I remember being able to step back and go, okay, well, why am I saying that? Why am I hearing that? To me, I like what you said too about the thoughts aren't going to stop, because the thoughts are almost like a whetstone, for a knife to sharpen it. It's like the thoughts are going to continue because it takes us, it helps us to create a finer point, or a more refined experience. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And our thoughts are only reflecting what's inside that needs to be, the light needs to be shone on,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so by that, it's just to observe, observe, and observe. And our practice, daily practice, is really to just witness and be, rather than be the thoughts. Like you said, you're not gonna, the projector isn't gonna judge, you
Hmm.
know. It's the same thing. It's like we're just make a choice every morning that you're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
And how else can what wonderment can show up for us as we do
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. And I think we, being in the contemporary age that we're in, which everything has polarity, but it's kind of, we've uh, maybe from the 50s with television being introduced, and subdivisions, and the kind of the conveyor belt, kind of a push button society, right? And so it almost like makes us lazy.
Mm-hmm.
But which is where we want this push button instantaneous thing, which we can actually do, but it requires mastery. This is what I'm getting from myself. It's like, okay, my friend was in the Marines. He became a sharpshooter. He said, to be a sharpshooter, you have to shoot a target 1,000 times. And it just brought it home to me, like the things that we look at, like you said, like, is this it? These little actions that we can take, and these little disciplines, not in the harshness of the word, but just in the habit, are really what expand us. And it, because it's so human, we just think it can't be, because it's too bland. But we are no different than these essences and these star families and these elementals and these fantastic energies that we've been exposed to at one time or another. All of us, we're the same thing. We're actually in a different ball game, because we're actually carrying the physical and the non-physical in one experience, one vessel. So I think it's
Well,
time we give us
because you know what human means, right? It's hue is light,
light.
and and so it's light being, light man, light being. And I like to sort of say it is like if you have a prism, the light's going to come through and then it's going to get refracted. You the prism itself doesn't judge the refractions.
Right.
It doesn't judge the light coming through. It just is.
Yeah.
And that's where we want to get when we're talking about reprogramming the DNA. We're stepping away from our judgments, and as soon as we do that, we become the expression of our
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? All these, and I'm not going to say they don't have some, I don't know, but all these narratives and theories of the histories that we've been told and not been told, and they did this to us and they did this to us, when actually we're the ones, uh, unconsciously, we were the ones standing in the way of our DNA being maximized as far as the potential. And now that we know, all it really takes is just a daily. It's a lifestyle. It's a way of life now that
It,
will accelerate exponentially. Like you said, the math. I used to say the math was 1 + 1 = 3, and then it's 6, 9, 12, and whatever. But I like what you said better, because that's really more like it. It's really 1 + 1 = 11, +1 = 111. I mean, the math moves much faster than anything we can even comprehend. Is there anything you're getting into before we get out of here? I mean, anything you want to tell the people about? Um, this went by so fast, but I'd love to collaborate again.
I'd love
Throughout the
to.
throughout the year, because yeah, I think your information is very important. But is there anything that you want to expand awareness about that you're doing?
Well, I'm doing a 21-day program starting March 20th. And what I'm doing is 21 days of 21 minutes of quantum DNA sessions. And basically, what that is to help people align to the frequency of their truth. Um, and I feel we all know 21 days is, changing
Hmm.
habits and all of that. But I did this with a group of Russians recently, and the results were phenomenal. Um, just, yeah, phenomenal. So I wanted to offer it to the general public. And that's what that's. So if people actually get that free gift, they will be able to get access to information on when that's happening and how and when they can join on that.
All right, let me show. Hang on. Let me show the. This is from your website. Okay. Uh, this is rewrite your DNA in 2 minutes for health and abundance. And so from here, if they access that, which is in the post announcement, then they'll get information on the
Mm-hmm.
21 days, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. You might want to put any links in the comments on Facebook, and then this will be up on YouTube, premiering as all the shows do. After we go on Facebook, I put them up on YouTube, and they premiere on YouTube. So you can go on there and put up any links as you want as well. So
Thank you.
I know you have a YouTube, right?
I do. I do.
Yeah.
People can check that out as well. There's loads of videos there. I've got meditations on there, and uh, there's animations that I've created. I think we showed one of those on one of our shows.
Yes. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And that's
Um,
under your name. It's under
Yes,
your, okay.
Charan
Okay.
Surdhar.
I really look forward to, I really enjoy doing collaborating with you, and I look forward to doing another one in a few weeks and throughout the year.
Thank you,
You're in
George.
You're in London, right? Aren't you in London?
I'm north from London. I'm
Okay,
in the
but you're in.
Midlands.
Okay, okay. I just
Yeah.
wanted to get a bearing
We
on where.
we might be a small country, but
Hmm.
it's still, for you, the distance maybe not be that big, but for us,
No, no, no. I get you. I get you. You take care, and thank you for
okay, take
everything.
care. Thank
Thank you
you.
for everything that you're doing. Yes,
Thank
I'll
you.
see. Bye bye.
Bye.
I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Have a good day.